What the hell's wrong with the moral order? What's wrong with the spirit who created existence itself? It's a hell of a thing to think about failure as a consequence of second-rate effort. If you offer your best, will you be accepted? Because that's God's pronouncement to Cain. Cain takes the opposite stance. He offers what's second best. And it doesn't work. Well, is that true? Well, how often have you offered anything but your best and had it work? And then you might think, well, why would you even think it could work? Because life is very difficult. It's very difficult. And if you're going to make a success out of it, or something that isn't an absolute hell, it's fairly probable that you're going to have to bring your best to the table. Because like, who do you think you are? You think you're the sort of person who can defy the structure of reality itself? That you can fool yourself and other people and the natural order and God by offering what's second rate and succeeding. That's your theory. That's not a wise theory. Not in the face of the difficulties of life. That's Cain's theory. That's what he tries to do. And what happens to him? It says in the text, his countenance falls. What does that mean? He's bitter, resentful, miserable, unhappy, and vengeful. Well, why? Well, because he's being rejected. Well, why is he being rejected? Because he's not bringing his best to the table. And so what does Cain do? Well, he doesn't do what Abel does. Abel always aims up, right? He makes the sacrifices that are acceptable to God. That's his story, because he brings what's of the highest quality to the table. Cain doesn't. Cain fails, is bitter, miserable, and resentful. And what does he do? Well, he doesn't admit it, because he's not able. He calls out God. And so he has a little chat with God, just like we all do when we're bitter and failing. How did you make this world where I'm breaking myself in half, and all that's happening is I'm failing? And my brother, Abel, the sun shines on him. Everything he does touches to gold. What the hell's wrong with the moral order? What's wrong with the spirit who created existence itself? That's Cain's challenge to God. It's a hell of a thing to think about failure as a consequence of second-rate effort. It's like, well, I'm failing because God made the world wrong. There isn't a more prideful presumption than that. And it doesn't really work on God. And God says to Cain, if you did well, you'd be accepted. And what does that mean?